What's up, guys? It's your girl T, aka the nappy-headed jojoba, and long time no see, I know. I am of the belief that I owe no apologies because I don't owe anyone videos on a hobby channel. But I miss you guys, and I have been wanting to do videos. I actually, believe it or not, have a schedule. Like, I have a calendar called Nappy Headed Jojoba where I schedule all the videos, when I'm going to record them, when I'm going to upload them. And that has really helped me to stay on my grind with getting videos up about once a week, every week this year, except for like the past 2 weeks and maybe one other week earlier this year that I missed. But the fact of the matter is, things that actually pay my bills take precedent over my hobbies, and that is where I have been. Your girl has been straight grinding. I'm going out of the country for 3 weeks at the end of this month, so I'm trying to get ahead on my main job, which is working over on Cinefix. And then, as if that weren't enough, trying to get ahead on my job was this really awesome side project opened up to me, and I've been working on that on the weekend. So I'm actually literally, it's Sunday. I'm hoping to get this up today, which is still Sunday, Mother's Day, in fact. I'm just getting home from shooting all day. I was shooting all day last Sunday. That's actually why Ghana Goddess and I were not able to do our check-in for the Mind, Body, and Soul Challenge, the halfway point check-in. There are still 2 weeks left in that challenge. We are at the beginning of the penultimate week of the challenge. If you weren't participating before, you still can. You've got 2 weeks to try to get some good habits going. For me, the challenge was going great in the beginning, and then as things started to escalate at work, I've been struggling a lot more to make sure that I'm getting in all my workouts, and the fact of the matter is I haven't on some weeks. I have not hit that target of 4 workouts, but I'm trying to do better as we get near the end, especially because I want to look good when I go on my vacation. Okay, that is enough getting off topic and catching up kind of stuff. Let's get into the topic of this video because I am losing daylight by the second. This is a video that's been on my to-shoot list for quite some time, and I figured that since I don't really have a ton of time to shoot today, it would be a good one to try to get out to you guys. And this is talking about getting past a growth plateau and 5 things that I did to do it. When my hair had reached, I would say, the mid-back length area a few years ago, it stayed there for a good year plus. I would say well over a year went by and my hair did not grow any longer, or I would say it grew longer, but it didn't retain length to the point that I reached the next sort of marker milestone when you're measuring on your body. I didn't make it from mid-back length to waist length, or at least closer to waist length, until I implemented some of the changes I'm about to tell you guys. I say this in every single video. I am no expert on hair. I am an expert on my hair. What works for one may not work for others. What works for some may not work for all, blah, blah, blah. Your mileage may vary. I'm just telling y'all what I did. So you can take everything I say with a grain or an entire box of salt. But I would say that these 5 changes are probably the things that I can credit the most with getting past that length/growth plateau. The first thing I did was I started shampooing my hair again. The 6 months to a year leading up to that sort of growth plateau that lasted me a good year, year and a half, maybe a little bit longer, I had basically started doing a version of the curly girl method. I would never really say I was doing that because I don't really subscribe to that. I don't really think of my hair as curly per se. I mean, it is. Of course it is. That's what Afro textured hair is. It's just extremely curly, highly textured hair. But you know what I mean. I'm an Afro textured girl. I'm not a curly girl, if that makes sense. Regardless, I fell into YouTube hype of all these people who had beautiful heads of hair saying that I don't shampoo my hair ever. All I do is co-wash, co-wash, co-wash. And I did like the way my hair felt whenever I would shampoo my hair back then. Because I hadn't found shampoos that really were agreeable with my hair, every time I would shampoo my hair would feel stripped and it would stay very, very dry feeling for days afterward. It would seem like I would have my wash day on Saturday or Sunday, whatever, and my hair wouldn't kind of return to normalcy until Wednesday of just slapping on moisture every day, trying to get it back to normal, only to then do it all again the next weekend, because at that time I was still also doing my hair routine every single weekend, which I don't do anymore either. I wouldn't say doing my hair routine less frequently necessarily it made a huge difference in retaining more length, but perhaps reducing the manipulation did. But overall, I do think that what helped was actually getting shampoo back in my routine because, and I've quoted African Hair God on this before, Co-washing your hair only is like trying to wash your body with lotion. I think that because your scalp is the only part of your sort of hair's ecosystem that's actually alive, because the hair strands that you can see are dead, you need to make sure that you're keeping your scalp properly cleansed, and I wasn't really doing that with just co-washing. So that was the first thing I did. The second thing I did was I use deep conditioners that contain protein pretty much every time I deep condition my hair. I wouldn't necessarily say that I do a protein treatment because that makes it sound like I'm doing some kind of hardcore effigy two-step type of thing, but I do use deep conditioners that contain protein, and if they don't, I use my Green Beauty treatment protein and add it into that every single time I deep condition my hair. Now, mind you, as I said, I don't do this every single week because I don't do my wash routine every single week. I would like it to be every 2, but time just has not been permitting for quite some time. Nonetheless, I would say that sticking to protein treatments and actually transitioning from relying on that rather than henna to strengthen my hair, which is what I was really doing before. I was almost avoiding protein, I would say. I was kind of under this delusion that my hair didn't like protein, and that was not the case. My hair's porosity is normal to high. I would say it's high on the ends because they're so old, and probably normal throughout most of the rest of my hair. Because of that, my hair thrives with protein and, just kind of keeping those strands fortified by using light to medium amounts of protein on a regular basis rather than having to do some hardcore make my hair helmet and then I rinse it out kind of protein treatments, every so often. Like, I pretty much never have to do those hardcore protein treatments because I'm regularly keeping my hair strengthened and fortified with milder protein conditioners. So that's what I do now. I use protein every wash day, basically. Nothing too crazy. I still use henna once in a while, but honestly, it's probably like once a year because just ain't nobody got time for that. The third thing I did was I started trimming my hair regularly. I'm far less regimented now because I have a better idea of knowing when I need a trim. I actually just did a pretty major trim and my hair is still thanking me for it because my detangling sessions have been so much easier. Like, the easiest they've ever been ever. I did do a whole video on that. I got a much more thorough trim and how I incorporated curl formers actually into my new trimming method, so I'll link that video here. But in any event, even before this whole new method, I just got into a routine where I was trimming my hair basically every 3 months. Just, an eighth of an inch or so. I've demonstrated that as well in an older video if you would like to check it out. But I want to be clear on why I believe trimming helped me to get past this growth plateau. There is no credibility to this idea that trimming your hair makes it grow. That's purely magical thinking. There's no message being sent from the ends of your hair that there's been a cut, so now more hair needs to come out from the roots. It makes absolutely no sense. It's complete hooey. The reason I think trimming helped me to get past that growth plateau was it helped with my detangling, which meant that my detangling sessions were far less destructive in terms of me losing hair unnecessarily. It ties in with what I was just saying about doing that trim that I just did where I cut off, a couple of inches and my detangling sessions have been going so much better. Well, that was the same effect before. Once I got past this whole idea of trying to save every single strand and only cutting out single strand knots and split ends, I noticed that my hair was a lot more manageable on my wash days after trims, and it just made everything easier. I was inflicting far less mechanical damage because my hair was a lot more cooperative with me maneuvering and manipulating and detangling. So that is why I believe that trimming was a critical element to helping me keep my hair on my head for longer, because it's still proving to be true. The fourth change I made was opting for twists over braids almost all the time. Meaning, whenever I would finish my wash day or even just be styling my hair, rather than putting my hair into plaits, which is what I almost always used to do because they just stretch my hair far better and they last longer, I opted for twists because they're gentler. They're easier to take down, they're easier to put in, and they seem to just be gentler on your hair as you're wearing them. Braids are still great and I still employ them from time to time, and typically I will actually braid the root of my twist just for a few stitches before I start twisting because it helps keep my roots stretched, and that's where I tend to get tangles the worst, is at my roots. But day to day, my hair is almost always twisted rather than in braids, unless it's just sort of free like it is right now where I just have it pulled up. The core theory behind almost my entire approach toward carrying my hair is to be as gentle as possible, and that's why it makes sense that twists would have helped me to be more gentle on my hair than braids, because braids, they give you more of that stretch, but that's also more pulling and all that on your hair strands, and over time that does add up. And the last thing I did is kind of a weird one, but it's also something that I continue to do, which is that I avoid bending my twists or braids and creating new kinks essentially in the hair strand. I think we've all heard, if you have paid attention to Afro textured hair care at all, that every curl and curve and kink in your hair strand is basically another point of weakness, which is why our hair is so prone to breakage and damage. So if you think about it, when you take a braid or a twist and you bend it to try to fit it up in your headscarf at night, or you're flipping it up to try to fit it under a wig cap or whatever it is, that's creating a whole bunch of kinks all at once in all those hair strands in that braid or twist. So rather than like bending and stuffing my braids and twists when I need to maneuver them, instead, whenever I do need to maneuver my twists, I try to, again, just do it as gently as possible. For example, if I were going to be wigging it and I needed to get the ends of my braids up inside the wig cap because, they're going to be hanging out the bottom, rather than just like bending it up and then stuffing it in, I'll actually take the end of my braid and kind of like drape it up and then pin it. And that way it's just sort of a soft U shape, which, it might not give you the flattest result you might get necessarily. I think, honestly, the best you can do is probably just doing a beehive braid pattern, which I can't do anyway. But at the end of the day, it's a lot gentler to just kind of swoop and drape, almost like you're doing a doobie wrap, whenever I'm trying to maneuver my braids or twists around my head, rather than bending them or, stuffing them or scrunching them up in any kind of ways that essentially, like I said, create kinks in them. I'm avoiding creating giant kinks in my twists and braids because that's just creating more spots of weakness. I know that one is probably the most high maintenance sounding of them all, but I really do think there might be something to it, because I believe that anything you're doing to your hair over time, that mechanical damage can really add up. So anything you can do to reduce the amount of stress and pressure, I guess, that you're putting on each of your hair strands over time is probably a good thing. Those are 5 things I did to get past my growth plateau a couple years ago, and so far so good. It did allow me to finally get to waist length as I continued on, and we'll see if I can keep that going. I mean, I got some regrowing to do after my trim from a month or so ago, but it was definitely worth it because my hair is behaving so much better. Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced a growth plateau and what you did to get past it, or just let me know how you're doing in the Mind, Body, Soul Challenge, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now.